Jalen Rose. I'm
What
David
up,
Jacoby.
Dale?
We are Jalen and Jacoby. What is it that we do?
We give the people what they want.
Happy Monday, everybody. And after the uprising, the awakening, the unrest of all last week, late on Friday, Roger Goodell put out a video. Let's play a snippet of that.
We, the National Football League, condemn racism and the systematic oppression of black people. We, the National Football League, admit we were wrong for not listening to NFL players earlier and encourage all to speak out and peacefully protest. We, the National Football League, believe Black Lives Matter.
Jalen, what do you think about the sincerity? How genuine did that feel to you?
A couple of bullet points stand out to me. Condemn, systemic, racism, Black Lives Matter. It's mainstream now, Jacoby. The cancel culture and the reality of watching a human being like George Floyd get killed with this knee to his neck while people were dealing with the coronavirus under a pandemic and forced to watch this for 9 minutes has been a unique awakening in our country that even Roger Goodell and the NFL have to recognize. If you wanted to be genuine, here's what they should have done. PR 101. You should have gathered about 10 or 15 owners and do a version of the video that the players did that forced you to do it. That's what would have showed me something powerful. And when you say systemic, you mean ownership, GMs, presidents, coaches, people in decision-making position, in power. Not many blacks in your league. I want to see it. That's the action, not the words.
And I also feel that everything he said, what he didn't say was one of the most important things. He said we didn't listen to NFL players. He didn't mention Colin Kaepernick by name. And Colin Kaepernick, this literally cost him his career to fight against social injustice. And I personally feel that he deserved to be mentioned because he said we didn't listen to NFL players, but the other NFL players are still NFL players. And it cost Colin Kaepernick his career. I think he definitely should have been mentioned by name in this video. Don't you agree?
Absolutely. And the civil uprising with people from all races, from all countries, all sides of the world, Jacoby, London, the Netherlands, Africa. This movement has created such a groundswell that forces the NFL to acknowledge that they were wrong, yet still can't acknowledge Colin Kaepernick by name. Couldn't acknowledge him by name. That's the step to admitting you're wrong, is acknowledgement. Still didn't happen. And so I'm disappointed by that.
Well, there's a really interesting twist to this because if you sort of admit that you're wrong and that you should have listened to NFL players when you condemned them kneeling during the national anthem, what about this season? Adrian Peterson, a veteran, here's what he had to say about potentially kneeling this season. He said the following, quote, "Just 4 years ago, you're seeing Kaepernick taking a knee, and now we're all getting ready to take a knee together going into the season without a doubt. Yes, without a doubt, he plans on taking a knee." Interesting. He went on to say, "We've got to put the effort in as a group collectively. Are they going to try to punish us all? If not, playing football is going to help us save lives and change things. Then that's what it needs to be." Jalen, do you see an NFL where you see a majority of the players taking a knee for the anthem?
I do, and it's going to happen. And this power and platform actually existed for NFL, NBA, entertainers, all of us 4 years ago. The difference is when you look back at history, a lot of us are going to be on the wrong side of it, thinking that Colin probably shouldn't take his protest to work. That's the biggest stage. That's when people are paying attention. So if I'm going to kneel, I'd rather do it on Sunday at work than on Tuesday on my day off, especially peacefully. Now the players have been emboldened. So the 12 people that did it before see the groundswell of corporate America having to recognize our voices legitimately. And so now it's going to give other black athletes and white athletes in the NFL the freedom to actually feel if they wanted to kneel in peace, that they can actually do so.
One of the most powerful athlete voices that we have ever seen in history joins us right after this. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar joins us in just 2
people treat me like
minutes.
Kareem
Make sure you stay
Abdul-Jabbar.
tuned. We'll be right back.
Jalen Jacoby is presented by Corona Extra. Find your beach. And in part by Wendy's 2 for $5. Price and participation may vary.
Welcome back to Jalen Jacoby. Jalen Rhodes, who is joining us right now?
An intellect, an activist, a philanthropist. He had the most unstoppable shot in the history of the NBA. Not only is he an NBA champion 6 times over and a Hall of Famer, plus the NBA's all-time leading scorer, he is also a 4-time award-winning columnist that has written for the Hollywood Reporter, the LA Times, and The Guardian. I would like to welcome humbly to our show, El Capitan, Mr. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Welcome to the show, legend.
Thank you very much, Jalen. How you doing, Jacoby?
Thank you so much for taking the time. We appreciate you joining the program. And you recently tweeted that you were into your thoughts and reevaluating what it means to be black in America. What exactly did you mean by that?
Well, you have to just think back about how life in America has affected you as a black person. And for me, it's had its ups and it's had its downs. But it all started for me back in 1955. I was 8 years old when Emmett Till was murdered, and I didn't understand that. And from that point on, I tried to figure out what I could do about it. So I think my life has reflected that.
It definitely has. And I felt like it was really profound when you said that you were caught between hope and history. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, Jalen, it's like you have a hope that America will live up to its promise, live up to the words in the Declaration of Independence that all men are created equal and endowed with certain rights that are inalienable. But too often in America, black Americans and other people of color have not been treated equally, and it gets to the point where police officers can murder black people and harass them and treat them poorly. And we've got to stop that. It's been going on for too long.
In 2016, you were awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom for your work against social injustice and for equality. How important do you think it is that today's athletes get involved with this cause the same way?
I think it's crucial that today's athletes, take up the challenge and do what they have to do now in today's circumstances. Just like black athletes before related to the circumstances that they were dealing with and tried to do the right thing. I mentioned Bill Russell, Jackie Robinson, Jesse Owens at the 1936 Olympics just made a statement for what we were all about. And it's black athletes who are able to get people straight. Colin Kaepernick's protests about the exact event that ended up with the death of George Floyd. Colin really suffered for what he did, but now people see that he was talking about something that was absolutely valid, and we're taking it from there, and people are now appreciating his sacrifice. I think those things really make it clear that black athletes have something to say and something to contribute to the advance of freedom, justice, and equality for all Americans.
And it almost seems like karma in a lot of ways for black people, that the knee that killed George Floyd almost mirrored and was symbolic of the picture of Colin Kaepernick actually taking a knee during a peaceful protest before a football game. As somebody that's been a social warrior your entire life, and this was a young man over my shoulder, a part of the movement, how do you feel now seeing so many different people, colors, and backgrounds actually protesting and marching alongside? Does that look much different than it did back in the 60s?
Yeah, it does, Jalen, because in the 60s, people didn't understand as completely how black people are defined by stereotypes that have nothing to do with who they really are. All of the stereotypes that were supposed to be typical of the black experience really had no validity. I'm thinking about what Reverend Sharpton said yesterday, that we can learn just like any other students could learn, but we couldn't deal with the underfunded schools because white America had their knee on our neck. And we could have done jobs and done corporate finance, all the difficult and intricate things that Americans do, black Americans could do, but we were denied the opportunity because America had its knee on our neck. That was just so many powerful statements that Reverend Sharpton made, and it was so accurate. And people get it now, and I'm hoping we've come to a point where we've got the political will to do something about this.
Well, there's so much going on in our society that is bigger than basketball, but I do have a basketball question for you. According to Caesars, two teams that you played for are the two teams that are favored to match up in the NBA Finals, the Lakers and the Bucks. Which team would you pick in a 7-game series?
Geez, I wouldn't pick any of them. I think I'm going to have to go and stay in a hotel until that series is over.
Those are his squads, Jacoby. He should have statues in front of both of those buildings.
Absolutely.
So,
How about
I'm just
this?
going to wait and keep my mouth shut because I can't make enemies. You know, I live in one town. I go visit Milwaukee a lot and still have lots of fans and good relationships up there. So I'm going to just keep my mouth shut and hope everybody enjoys it if that does come to pass and the Lakers and Bucks are involved in the finals.
See, Jacoby, you and I don't know nothing about an all-time legendary pass. That's what he has. No. And how about being a youngster and a fan of Bruce Lee in Kung Fu movies? Jim Kelly was somebody that we idolized. And then all of a sudden I'm watching, and you're in a movie with Bruce Lee. And I realized I did more homework. You trained with him. He just had a documentary appear on ESPN on Sunday night. So can you give us any stories about working with Bruce Lee and the impact that he had on your life?
Well, Bruce was a very interesting guy, and he was not what you would think he was. He had been a child actor, and he ended up where he was born in the United States just by a pretty unique circumstance. His mother came to visit his father, who was performing in San Francisco while she was pregnant, and Bruce ended up being born in San Francisco. So he was able to come to America and attend the University of Washington and start teaching martial arts. And I was just really fortunate to meet him and catch an opportunity to train with him while he was working on the Green Hornet.
Well, I mean, obviously with all the national unrest, it comes on top of a global pandemic. And how have you been keeping yourself busy during the COVID-19 quarantine?
Well, I'm working on a new technology that enables me to stay in touch with my fans and enables me to reach out to new fans. It's pretty neat. So if you want to know about it, just go to iconogram.com and I can do a message for you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, you can find him on Iconogram, and you can find us coming back in
is brought to you by Corona Extra. Find your beach.
Welcome back to Jalen and Jacoby. Jalen Rose, I'm so proud to be your partner, especially because of the work you do with Jalen Rose Leadership Academy. What happened this weekend?
80 of our wonderful scholars from JRLA graduated this year. 100% of them, Jacoby, have been accepted to a college or a university, community college, military, or a trade school. We've graduated approximately 400 students from high school, 12 students the last 2 years from college. Our influence is between the ages of 14 and 22, a 9 through 16 model, open enrollment, tuition-free public charter, the charity that makes it to the hood. Shout to our fearless leader, our principal, Wendy Lewis, my co-founder, Michael Carter, each of the scholars, each of the parents. I'm so very proud of this labor of love. Our board, Jamie Foxx, Kyle Kuzma, Mike Epps, we are giving the people what they want.
We'll be back tomorrow at 4. Dan Levy. In the world, global pandemic with COVID-19, global uprising in a fight for justice, people on the street peacefully protesting, some people not being peaceful, clashes between protesters and police. We all see it every day. And when such big things are happening in the world, sometimes it can be overwhelming. And sometimes you just go micro and you think about your immediate family and keeping them happy and protecting them. And whatever you want to protect, nobody has more ways to help keep you safe than ADT. ADT can help you customize a security package that fits almost every lifestyle. You can have anything you want that works for your budget. Whether you want just the basis or all the bells and whistles, ADT can work with you to customize the system to help protect your home. And they offer all the essentials and convenience. HD video doorbells, indoor and outdoor cameras, smart lights, smart locks, smart thermostats, flood sensors, and fire and carbon monoxide detectors, all connected to 24/7 monitoring. ADT is the leader in smart home security providing. They're the largest security network. 9 ADT owned and operated monitoring centers operate 24/7, 365. When it matters most, trust ADT. Now more than ever, you need the peace of mind with 24/7 rapid response monitoring from the leader in home security, ADT. We always say we give the people exclusive behind-the-scenes podcast content. And today, I just wanted to say one thing. With everything that's happening in the world, I always appreciate your voice, Jalen. But I also appreciate the voice of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Because he's been fighting this fight for decades. Decades. We're just catching up to him when it comes to activism and athletes. And I just really appreciate having him on.
Absolutely. His intellect, his humility, his ability to have a level of patience and discipline, like you said, fighting this good fight for decades on decades, and it still, in a lot of ways, seems like we're having the same conversations. And
love it.
That takes immense patience, because I find myself having this conversation, and as I turn 47, I'm like, I've been having this conversation half my life. And what looks different, however, is when they were doing their protests in the 60s, the vast majority of the people in an uproar and protesting were black people. Now it's multicultural. And based on that dynamic, I hope this becomes a change agent. The death of Fred Hampton at the hands of police didn't do it in the 60s. It was the preimpetus, Jacoby, of why the Black Panthers at the time would actually bear arms and follow the police as they made stops in their neighborhoods and actually stood socially distanced far enough away while they monitored what was happening in an arrest, so wouldn't any violence or murders happen via police hands. And so those optics from that to watching people storm the State House in Michigan and a couple of other places that were upset about their businesses being closed and were handled way different because they were white and they were bearing guns. We talked about that on this show. And we were talking about certain instances that were happening that were kind of, not truly being covered, like the murder of Breonna Taylor, like Ahmaud Arbery, like the lady at the park in Manhattan who was being filmed by a guy who was bird watching, and she just thought that she was going to use all of the buzzwords in order to get the police to come and be in an uproar when they came to try to apprehend this guy who wasn't doing anything. And it's one thing to see those images, and then when you see George Floyd, and then you see, wait a minute, the police are tear gassing people? Rubber bullets? Peaceful protest? So here's what I want everybody to know. If you've ever been a person, and it's okay to be on the wrong side of history, but if you look back at your past and you told yourself, I don't know why they're rioting. I don't know why they're protesting. Oh, well, it's going to be okay. It can't be that bad. If you Drew Brees in the game, it's okay. I'm not the cancel culture that feels like we should ostracize Drew Brees for saying how he feels. I appreciate how he feels. And if we want to have a dialogue to why we agree and or disagree, that's fine. But as a black man, I learned that I can't be having that conversation every 2 steps I take with every human being. That's just unrealistic.
Well, that brings up a couple of points I wanted to make. One is I was walking around this neighborhood in Manhattan today, and there was some protests here. There's also some looting here, over early last week. And I noticed that some businesses were starting to take out the drills and take the boarding off of their windows, sort of feeling like, all right, well, and it's just a little sign of many that sort of the quote unquote uprising has subsided somewhat. And I honestly can't tell you if I want the protest to be bigger and never stop until there's actual change, or if I want the protest to subside somewhat so life can quote unquote get back to normal. It's one of those things I wrestle with in my head. Like, yeah, it would be convenient if there wasn't protests and a curfew in New York City. But the fact of the matter is convenience doesn't matter right now. Like maybe there should be more protests. I don't want to see this sort of die down and become something that happens in the past. I want to see true change, policy change, police reform, diversity in hiring at all ranks of corporate America. Like I feel like these are things that really need to happen. And I just don't know if what has been done thus far is enough to see that actually happen.
Well, the frustrating part is since it's been going on for 500 years, we both know it's not going to change overnight.
Exactly.
So basically the question is, what does substantial change look like? And for me, one of the first things that Reverend Al Sharpton said at George Floyd's funeral when he was talking about America getting their knee off of the black man's neck, he talked about education. And that struck a chord with me, Jacoby, because that seed was planted in my mind and my heart a long time ago. I've had a foundation since 2000. I've had a scholarship endowment at the University of Michigan almost 20 years. When I started my foundation, we helped about 40 kids via scholarships to go to college. JRLA was a graduation of that mission. Like, how can I help more people from my community get a quality education when the quality of education they get in their zip code is flat out inequitable and it doesn't put them in a position to be successful in life? That's a flat out fact. That's why when people influence the race, I'm seeing a lot of big checks being thrown around, and it's great. I just want to make sure that those checks ain't just for the downtowns of these cities. I want these dollars and these programs to be implemented in the inner city like I'm doing, like so many others are doing, the kind of charity that actually makes it to the hood. And so that's what I would like to see. I would like to see the education gap be bridged.
That's a good point. Now, there's been some discussion. I think Matt Barnes said that he spoke to some people in the Lakers and Clippers, and there's some discussion about not wanting the season to continue. due to all the social injustice and the uprising. So it really got me thinking, and I want to get your perspective on this because not only are you an ex-athlete, NBA player with a big platform, but you're also a black man, and I'm not. So I want to ask you this question. I can see both sides of this. If the Lakers, LeBron James included, say, we're not taking the basketball court until we see this type of change that we are screaming for, until we see hardcore change across America in policies from the federal on down to the local gym. Until we see that kind of change, we're not taking the court. I could see that. But I could also see, well, we are going to use, quote unquote, our platform to get our voice be heard. Where every press conference, I'm going to mention something. I'm going to wear something all the time. I'm going to make sure that every time a camera is pointed at me that I advance this agenda, and that is how I'm going to incite the type of change that I'm looking to do. And I could see both sides of that argument being perfectly sound and legit. So from your perspective, which side would you advise today's athletes to follow?
So the overall structure of where we hope to go with equality in as human beings, but also in industry, that's a long way away. And not to make anyone discouraged, but other than the NBA, the NFL, probably Tiger Woods as an outlier in golf, Denzel and Will Smith as outliers and as actors. For the most part, any industry that I think of, whites not only own it, but they make the most money in it. That's not changing overnight. So what I hope happens in the industry of sports and business, you get more diversity and power. And when that starts to happen, it sprinkles itself out via your company, via your team, via your power structure, and just having that diversity in the room and just having the best candidates get opportunities elevates everyone. It makes us a better society. It makes getting to our goals a lot more achievable. But that's a long way away, Jacoby. Here's what I also will say. There are going to be a lot of people that stand with us right now because it's a trending topic. But I can't act like we ain't been here before. Mm-hmm. We've been here before. And people are forced to watch this revolution on television because we're quarantining, and like The Last Dance, we're watching the TV and we're glued to what's happening. I want to see if some reform and some laws change via policing. Like, it's a disgrace when I'm looking at video in Buffalo and we've militarized the police so much they walking down the street and they push an elderly man down. He hits his head on the cement. They keep walking.
He's bleeding from his head. He didn't just hit his head. He's bleeding from his head, which is extremely dangerous situation, right? And then and he's immediately bleeding. I think bleeds from the ear. And the police not only did that, they disregarded him and walked around him and stepped over him like he was like a tree branch when he was bleeding from his head. And that's not the only video. We've all seen all the videos of what's going on.
They fire or they reprimand whatever, 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
All 57 of them walked past him and didn't give him aid. And then the other 57 or whatever decide that they're upset that those 2 got reprimanded, so they quit the detail.
It's wild. It's absolutely wild. Now,
like, talk about people that have lost the quarantine. Let me start with a list. Number 45, our commander in tweets. He lost the quarantine. 40 million people unemployed. We're dealing with the coronavirus. We're dealing with a social uprising in a political cycle. He lost. L. Number 2, police. The police. They lost his quarantine. And the images that we're seeing of innocent people being just treated less than inhumane. And I know I'm not advocating violence against anyone, including police. I'm not advocating rioting or I'm not advocating looting. What I want people to understand when you've been oppressed, there's a level of psyche that goes on in your mind. And you know, we tell ourselves when we walk past that CVS, when we walk past that one Whole Foods, that you guys are celebrating that you finally gave us one in the neighborhood. You know what we thinking? We don't own this block. We're just renting. If I ever got a chance to make it out, I'll make it out as fast as possible. That's the dream. That's the goal. So it's like burning down a prison yard. It's like we don't own it. We feel enslaved. We feel entrapped. We don't have a voice. So maybe if we do this, you'll listen to us. So this is a watershed moment in our country. I want to see how we fare.
I want to see some real change. And I believe that all these corporate statements that came out, every corporation came out with their statement over black with white letters. And what I do is I'm just keeping tabs, because let's just see where the accountability is in 2 years and 3 years. You know, it's like let's check back on those. Let's keep a list of every corporation that said how much they support black people and how much they support diversity in the workplace and how much Black Lives Matter. I want to check back on them in a year and 2 years and 3 years to see if any actual changes happen on that level. I'm keeping track. Now, Jalen, I'm about to pivot. We're about to pivot because we're going to talk about some sports, because there is some sports that we didn't get to address on the show that I need to talk to you about, because there's something that's happened recently in the past 2 weeks. UFC fighters became rappers. They just retire all the damn time. So now we got John Bone Jones. He wants out of his contract. He's not getting the money. Jorge Masvidal wants out of his contract. Henry Cejudo wins belt. Now he's retiring, you know, and he's in his prime. And now we got Conor McGregor, because they had like 3 weeks in a row where people weren't talking about Conor McGregor, so he up and retired. Now, Jalen, I don't believe any of this. I believe all those fighters that I mentioned are just saying, hey, Dana, get me in the ring against someone that I want to fight and get me some money. That's basically what I'm hearing. Do you feel any differently?
All I know is Masvidal, my guy, and I don't hear him talking about retiring.
Oh, he wants out of his contract because the fights weren't right and he wasn't getting enough money. So he's doing that thing. That's what he's doing. That's what he's doing. He didn't say anything about retiring, but he wanted out.
Because he felt like I'm putting on for the sport. Like he said, he came on our show. Like there have been some people he feel like check in and out of the sport, and he feel like he's 10 toes down, and he want to get paid. I want to see him and Conor fight.
Well, that seems to be, it might be next, because Conor was complaining about Gaethje and Habib being pushed until September, because Conor just wants to be in the news. He wants to be in the news. He wants to have a clear path of what's happening with him. He knows he's a big draw. But, I mean, that fight against Cowboy was impressive, but again, he has no chance to beat Habib. None. So I don't even know why he would want those problems. But I would love to see a Masvidal-Conor fight. I would absolutely love to see a Masvidal-Conor fight.
How about this? I would love to see any Masvidal fight, because we're going to celebrate with him after. And
I can't wait for that.
If I didn't have my hair, I would love to have his. It's great.
So, Jalen, another quick sports thing I want to talk to you about is, I didn't consider this until I started reading. ESPN's got the thing about the bubble and the 22 teams. They break down each team, where they were, what's changed, what's happened, what potential things that can happen, X factors. I got to the Lakers. You know I love LeBron, so I'm reading about the Lakers. And they said one X factor that might happen. Boogie Cousins. I was like, wait a second. I forgot about this. Not only is he on the roster, but they said even if he doesn't play, because it has been about a year since his injury, they said even if he doesn't play, just his voice being there with no fans, just being a bench presence. Because you notice he went to a lot of Laker games. He went to more Laker games than Jack Nicholson. You know, like he wasn't like, oh, I'm hurt, I'm not playing this year. Y'all have a good time. I'll check in with the training staff every once in a while. He was really with this team the entire year. So do you think there's any chance we A, see Boogie Cousins play, B, see Boogie Cousins just in the bubble supporting the Lakers?
Play, no. Guys that had catastrophic injuries that aren't young bucks, that either want to get paid like a Boogie or an Isaiah Thomas, or they've already gotten paid like the Splash Brothers, KD, Kyrie, they're not playing this year. John Wall, They're not playing this year. So I don't care what the circumstances, how many bubbles. I don't care if it's people feel like it's an asterisk next to the championship. Those dudes ain't playing. And I'm pretty sure I can sit back and give you a list of about 15 more, actually. And so, I mean, yeah, it would be great to see him back. I got a chance to talk to him really right before the pandemic hit. He said he was recovering well at the game and stuff like that. They got a lot of bigs that they've been playing good minutes for, Dwight and JaVale McGee. and AD. So I just hope Boogie get healthy and get paid. He might end up being a Piston one day.
He's technically not on the Lakers right now, but they are talking about expanding rosters because of the potential of sickness or injury. So that could leave him some room to get back in there. I just want to see Boogie get that championship he thought he was getting last year. Because around the All-Star break last year, he was like, oh, we coasting to this one. He's like, he's getting fitted for the ring, getting his ring size and everything. And next thing you know, everything fell apart for him in the finals. And Jalen, there's something else I want to talk to you about. We've spent hours arguing about who the MVP is, Giannis or LeBron. I think LeBron, you think Giannis. We won't go back to that tired argument now. But my question is it's usually a regular season vote, right? So wait. So you're trying to tell me that you're gonna get a ballot between the regular season after 8 games are over and then the playoffs, and you're gonna vote then? Or are you gonna watch the whole playoffs play out and then they're gonna give you a ballot? As a voter, have you been given any guidance towards this? And we should probably put this in the television show because no one's talking about this. So let's put this in the show tomorrow, Demetrius, now that you're listening. But, when do we get the ballot? When do you vote as a voter? If it was up to me, y'all would have the ballot now, and we consider everything else the playoffs.
I'm glad. It's like a secret society. It's like they already emailed me, made sure I was healthy, made sure the family was good. And they let me know that we will be voting, and we're going to take into account the games that's been played and the potential 8 more games that will be played, and come up with a regular season. And that will finalize the regular season awards.
Interesting. Well, that was a couple of things that I wanted to hit with you.
That's a good one.
There's one more thing that's very important that we need to discuss. It's my son's birthday. Big shout out to Quincy. Happy birthday, Q. I'm about to wrap up this pod so I can go see him. But so they're out in not in the city, but I had to come to the city to do the show, which gives me a little free time. So I don't have the kids climbing all over me all the time. So I got to go on a nice long jog today, right? Nice long jog. Did the whole loop of Central Park, 6 miles, Jalen, 6 miles. And I didn't realize it. But I complain about my poofy nipples all the time, right? I looked down at my white tank top, built for running, by the way. Get at me, Nike, with your dry fit, built for running. This is from the running section of the Nike store. I got a white tank top.
I like Nike, but wait a minute.
I look down. Both of my nipples are just bleeding profusely. I got 2 huge red circles on my shirt. Both of my nipples bleeding profusely from rubbing up against this shirt over the course of a 9-mile jog. Now, Jalen, I've had nipple issues forever, not just psychologically. I think my nipples are too big and poofy, make me look like I have little breasts. But also, once upon a time, I was playing a lot of ball. I was playing 4 times a week, and I had the same problem, chafing my nipples. They started bleeding. They got infected. I had to go to 2 different doctors and get some special goop to put on my nipples. This is a real problem. So, Jalen, I showed you the shirt today, and you looked like I showed you a dead body.
I did. It was like that part in Boys in the Hood when they was like, you want to see a dead body? That's kind of how I felt when you showed me that shirt. Because a couple of things. Number one, you need to go see a doctor or a specialist about that. That ain't normal.
What are they going to do? What are they going to do? Remove my nipples? What do you mean doctor or specialist about that?
I don't know why.
That's your advice, dog? What, I walk in there and say, I have nipples? Will you remove them?
I don't know why this verse came to my mind. It was Biggie's verse. It was like, ninjas bleed just like us. Then I thought, you don't bleed like me. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if it's cultural or regional.
I know how much you love breast milk, Jalen. What about breast blood? Right. You feel the same way?
I just don't know. As a living, breathing, tax-paying adult man, you're running down the street and your boobs are bleeding. That would be me. I would scream and run home immediately.
You didn't have to call them boobs, Jay. You know what I mean? You could have been cooler with the word selection there. You got such a good vocabulary. You know what I mean? Nipple. You didn't have to call them boobs. Man, now I'm sad. You know what? I'm going to go cry.
That would have been disgusting. So please, somebody call and write into the show. Leave a voicemail. Tell Jacoby what he needs to do about his shaping nipples.
I've solved this problem. I've solved this problem when I ran the marathon. I did a lot of running, and there's a lot of nipple chafing. I got a product called Mr. Nipple, which is like a little like Band-Aids that you put over your nipples. But it's real embarrassing to own those. You know what I mean? It's just embarrassing. I feel like someone's gonna be like looking through my medicine cabinet, you know what I mean, when they use the bathroom, be like, yo, this dude has special nipple Band-Aids that he puts on. You know what? This whole thing is making me sad. I'm out. I want to thank Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I want to give Quincy a big shout for his birthday. We'll be back tomorrow. Why is that, Jalen?
We're not done. We're not done. We're not done.
It could be a routine drive to pick up the kids after school or an epic road trip across the country. No matter where your travels take you, we know those miles count. We're Marathon. We have over 5,700 stations across our great nation. Our people are working hard every day to provide you with quality top-tier gasoline to improve engine performance and fuel your life. Marathon, fueling the American spirit.